Wait, they were like, what?
And I was like, boss, please.
Oh, it's me. Hey, guys.
Why, yes, Meghan, I did hit record.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were introing or I was, and then I realized it was me. It was my turn, and man, I epically failed that. Well, hey, guys. Welcome to an episode of Boss Please. I'm Meghan.
I'm Jillian. Welcome to our kitchen table.
Welcome to the kitchen table. Yeah, so how are you, boss?
So I took some time this week. I've had a lot of traveling in the past couple of weeks, and I needed to cleanse my face, cleanse my soul. So I visited my dear Adina Diaz at Natural Feeling Spa. Adina has been a guest on our podcast.
Season 1, right?
Season 1, yeah. Right in the beginning. She's super amazing. She did this wild treatment to me, Meg. She had like
glorious
crystals on my boobies, on my forehead. She had this like sound bowl that was radiating vibrations throughout my whole body. It was transformative. I only wish that I could have teleported home because then I sat in 50 minutes of traffic.
Because it's in Beverly Hills. I totally got you. I would love to feel vibrations and crystals on my boobies.
Like, it was just great. Like, she was like, get up slowly before she walked out of the room. And I was like, okay.
I do that after massage too. It's like, it takes you a minute because you get a little dizzy.
You're just like, whoa. How are you a boss?
I used to swear by Jillian Michaels' 30-day shred, and I've just been like kind of sick of going to the gym. It's very monotonous. Mm-hmm. So I purchased it on YouTube. It was like $10. I was like, whatever, because they used to be on YouTube for free, but then obviously like girls got to make some cash, which we support. I totally get. So yeah, I've been doing Jillian Michaels' 30-day shred, and it's good. It's a quick 20-25 minute workout, but you really, I mean, it's like intensity.
You get sweaty. Yeah.
You get sweaty, and it's good, and I feel good, and my muscles feel good, and it's great. So that's how I was a boss.
Yeah.
So our next guest, Gabi Conti, she is doing this thing. She's doing 30 dates in 3 days.
Well, she did, yeah.
She did do them, yes. And it's like, it just gave me this idea of like just something that's repetitive. And obviously like 30 dates sounds really grueling in 3 days. But is there something that you do on a daily basis that's a good habit, or is there something that you'd like to implement in your daily life that you've always wanted to and just haven't done yet?
I'm going to go uber simple. Oral hygiene is really important. So I have started scraping my tongue every day.
Oh, yeah.
Because I heard
I thought you were saying you start brushing your teeth every day. And I'm like, Jill,
oh my God, no.
I know you're a clean freak, and I probably know you brush your teeth like multiple times a day.
We're adding it on to,
yes,
you know.
Yes.
But I just went to the dentist, and I use like a water pick instead of a piece of floss.
Yes.
So that's been great, but they also informed me of all of the health benefits of scraping your tongue every day, and it just gets rid of a lot of bacteria. That's kind of where your bad breath
that's where the bad breath comes from.
Yeah, so I made like a goal for myself, like, okay, I'm going to do it for 30 days. I'm going to do it for the month, and like, let's see if I feel a difference in my health, in my breath, all of these things. And I ordered the scraper. I think I actually got it at Urban Outfitters. It was on sale, but it's like, it looks like just a piece of metal curved, and you just scrape it. Really easy to implement. I mean, definitely Gabi gets all the credit because 30 dates sounds horrifying. So yeah, let's start small with the tongue.
I love it.
What about you?
Tongue is important. So I love a holistic approach to life. I love the good energy approach to life, but it's easier said than done. And I really, I mean, this is a goal of mine. I really want to make meditation a daily practice. I'm very bad at it because I forget. In the morning, I'm too tired. I make my breakfast. I have my coffee. At night, I try to do it, and then I end up falling asleep. So I'm like, I need to figure it out. However, something I have implemented, not for the whole month yet, but I've been doing it for a week straight now. There's this app I downloaded, and it's like a gratitude journal, and it reminds you every day to just stop and write down something you're grateful for. And it's just simple. I don't write a whole entry about it. It's just a couple sentences like, today I'm feeling grateful for blah blah blah. And I think that that's a step towards like the energy and the good vibrations and the positivity that I just want to implement every day. So yeah, I've been doing that, and I feel really good about this habit. So yeah, it's a great app. So hopefully I can just continue it.
I love that.
Yes.
I'm grateful that Gabi is coming in studio
Me
next.
too. So Gabi, we went to Emerson with her.
Yeah, she was actually in my sorority.
Oh, I didn't know that. And she, has lived in New York, and now she's back in LA. She's a writer. She's a stand-up comedian. She's a host, and she just has so many stories and a book coming out. So we're going to dive in with Gabi, coming right up. All right, everyone, welcome back. So happy that we have Gabi Conti in studio.
Hi.
Welcome, girl. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Gabi Conti is a writer, host, comedian, storyteller, and soon to be an author. Gabi went on 10,000 hours worth of dates in her 20s. So she calls herself a sex columnist, but her mom calls her a disappointment, which I don't think so at all. She's sharing her knowledge in her book, 20 Guys You Date in Your 20s, which comes out spring of 2020 with Chronicle. Wow, I'm so excited for that. She hosts Street Smarts for Brother HQ on Snapchat and has contributed to Hello Giggles, Elite Daily, Mind Body Green, Brit & Co, Pop Sugar, and Thought Catalog. She's very active on Instagram, so follow her at It's Gabi Conti.
Oh, and Cosmopolitan. So
that
was the older bio. I sent you two bios, and I'm like, one is updated, one's not.
I was going to add
that
Cosmopolitan.
Was the one,
yes,
that was the one
because
that
is
was not
the
updated.
current.
Now we know.
I love it. I love it. Yes, so
I
great.
think that was my bio. That's my bio on Cosmo.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Like, how cool is that? That's your bio on Cosmo. Like, that's a dream.
There we
go.
So I just copied and pasted that and then didn't add the thing that is now my favorite byline.
That is amazing. What a dream. Let's start from the beginning. So, baby Gabi, did you always know that you wanted to be an entertainer?
Always, yes. I was since I was a little kid. I loved Broadway musicals and show tunes. I actually I was born in Manhattan, so I saw a Broadway play before I ever saw a movie. And I love being on the stage, and I started performing on the stage when I was 6 years old, and did that all through my childhood, but then went to college in Boston at Emerson with Jill. And the theater thing, the thing was in high school, I loved theater and I loved contributing to the school paper, and I really also started getting into directing and writing plays. I ended up doing really the best in anything that was comedic, but I never got any leads in my high school musicals, and I don't know if it was the parts that I would get were just hilarious. I capped up my senior year playing a Nazi prostitute in Cabaret, where I had to sing the Nazi anthem to around Hanukkah to an auditorium of mostly Jewish people. I literally grew up thinking that my high school drama teacher just was out to get me.
Oh my God.
And then I ended up just kind of flipping it, being no, you know what? I think that it's just my path is really more comedy and not taking myself seriously.
And to interject, I think that is actually a compliment, because even though it might not have been the lead, not everyone can pull off comedy.
No, and
that is a huge thing.
And I started noticing that because I my freshman year in high school, I got cast in a one act in a play, and a lot of freshmen didn't get cast in plays, but it was something that relied on comedic timing, and that I didn't realize that was something I had. And then the comedy thing came into light again when I was in college, and Kevin Bright, one of the executive producers of Friends, did an artist in residency there, and I was doing man on the street interview stuff, and he's you're funny, and that was the first time I realized that. Really realized that, and that's kind of how the whole path of comedy writing and comedic journalism and storytelling has come to be for me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's very weird to have you here because so Meghan went to Emerson too, actually.
Yes,
but we didn't really have any cross
paths.
together.
Yeah. Okay.
So Gabi was in my sorority.
Yes. Also, I didn't say congratulations on your engagement. I realized as I was sitting down her ring, and I was oh yeah, Jill got engaged. I'm the worst sister. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's really weird because spoiler, I guess not spoiler, but for our sorority, I had to learn a lot about your life. So
which is such a weird thing that they make us do that.
And I know so many weird things about her, that I don't know, that probably a lot of your close friends wouldn't even know. So it's kind of great that I'm here now because I feel like I'm getting the update that I've needed for my memory bank. Yeah.
No, but that is, I thought that's kind of a cool thing that they did that for us, that we had to learn about our sisters by knowing all these facts and interviewing them, because I guess that is how you know your friends really well. Mm-hmm. But to have the fact that we had you memorize that's a little ridiculous.
No, literally. And it was down to Gabi's was fairly simple, but there were some girls that their name was 8 names. I can still say their names in my head, and that was a part of it, and that was my college journey, whatever. Not saying that I'm not glad that I did it. Like, I'm glad I did it because I ended up having some great friends.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know you.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's all good. But it's just very exciting to have you
missed
here.
out.
Oh, it's
That's
exciting
exciting.
to be here. No, you did not. I mean, yes, it had its pros and cons, like anything in life.
Yeah.
So I know a lot about you, but the people that follow you know a lot about you too, because you're really transparent, whether it be on the stage, on social media. So what are the pros and cons to doing that? Like, has it ever gotten you in any trouble?
So my biggest thing that just happened, I just wrote this article for Cosmo, going on 30 dates in 3 days. And the pro of it is I'm getting a lot of women messaging me on Instagram saying, thank you so much for doing that, because if you could go on 30 dates in 3 days, I could sure go on a date in a week. But I'm getting a lot of men, in quotations, men who are like offended by it, even though I really tried my best to, protect their names and identities. And you really wouldn't know who any of those guys are unless they told you it was one of them.
Right.
But I've been getting feedback from guys who I went on the dates with saying that I treated them like lab rats, which is like, no, because it really wasn't a social experiment. It was also a challenge, and it was something that I did for myself, and it was inspired by my Instagram series Daily Dates, where I was doing this anyway, and my editor who follows me was like, can you just could we put this into an article somehow? And I'm happy I did that, because as recently single, that challenge really helps me A, fully get over my breakup, and also B, decide what I really want and what's worth my time when it comes to dating.
Of course. And putting yourself back out there.
Yeah, which is hard, because I would cancel dates or I would not want to go out. And now I'm like, oh man, when I really have to focus on going on 30 dates in such a short period of time, I'm going on dates with guys I might have not gone on with before. And I'm also just really, making myself get out there, because it's hard after a breakup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Are these guys all via, you don't have to name the dating site, but are they all on dating sites? Are they just people that you're meeting out? Is it a mix of all?
So it was a mix of, it was dating apps and then setups, because I only had a week to put it together. Okay. So I needed the setups. Otherwise, there was no way I would have reached all the numbers. And two of the guys I had went on dates with before, but we reconnected on the dating apps, which is interesting.
Well, here's what I have to say. If most of them are coming from a dating app, they're already putting themselves kind of virtually out there anyways, because a lot of them probably have social media. So it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You just need to stop and just man up and grow some balls.
And also realizing that just because the date didn't work out for the two of us, that my article is in a way helping them, because if girls are getting inspired to go on more dates, who knows? A girl might go on a date with them because they read my article and because they're inspired. Absolutely. And they would never know that they were already in the article unless the guy said something.
Exactly.
But you actually got kicked off of a dating app.
I got kicked off of a dating app from it, which I can't say which dating app. And this was one of the guys who got really upset about it. And it was funny, actually, the two guys that got upset about it, the most upset about it, were both from my hometown, near my hometown, which is bizarre to me. But it also does speak very high, what my hometown was like. People take themselves very seriously in my hometown.
This is unreal, but this will probably be a movie someday.
Yeah.
Imagine feeling that burned by a girl that you spent an hour with.
An hour.
Guys have we're not man haters. There are good guys out there, as Jill always says. For a while, I was a man hater though, because I went on a lot of dates, and I was like, fuck everyone in LA. But there are few and far between some good men out there. However, where was I going with that? That just got me so angry.
Well, we've been talking about how you've been an extensive dater in your 20s.
Yeah.
So I want to hear about your book and how that came into fruition, because it's kind of a funny story.
It is a funny story. So I actually wasn't always, you remember in college, I wasn't really a big dater. I was really more focused on my career.
Yes.
My career was everything. I really didn't have much of a social life outside of the sorority. And then because all my friends were in the sorority, or they were older in the sorority, whatever. So I didn't really go out much. And for a while, I used to be a serial monogamous. So I had a high school boyfriend, and then a college boyfriend. And then I moved out to LA, and I got an immediate boyfriend who in the book is the instant boyfriend. It was one of these guys that I just met, and he felt comfortable because he had 3 first names. And I'm like, okay. And we started dating. And then I realized as he was helping me assemble IKEA furniture that we knew nothing about each other, and that we were just two people that just wanted to be in a relationship. And so that ended. And then shortly after, I started dating this guy who I thought I was going to marry. And I'm not going to spoil what happened, because something big happened, and that's why we're not together, and that's in the book. And after that happened, that's kind of when that breakup happened. That was kind of world shattering to me, because I was like, I thought things were a certain way, and he lied to me about something really big, which is also in the book. And at that point I just kind of was like, oh, okay, well, what, like, dating apps came out. I was like one of the first people on Tinder, and I started just like going on a lot of dates, and that's kind of how I started this brand. And it was kind of around a couple of years later I started writing for Hello Giggles, and my brand just ended up being like dating, because I would just go on these dates. I was on the apps, I was on all the apps. I couldn't seem to find a great guy, but I had these like crazy stories that I would talk about on the stage or in podcasts, and that's kind of how that path was. And I started writing the very first draft of this book for fun after the world-shattering breakup. There's a novel writing November month.
Okay.
So the breakup was in, I want to say it was like in September, and I wrote my first draft of this book, which was called Excommunication.
The breakup with IKEA guy?
No, the breakup with the guy who lied to me about something very big,
Okay,
which I'm not going to say what it is, because I want you to read the book.
Got it.
And so I started writing a novel, which was really more of a memoir, and it was just kind of these like short, funny stories about dating and guys I had dated at Emerson, guys I had dated in LA, and I finished it in November, and it was not something that anyone should see. It was more of like a diary entry, and after every major breakup, I kept adding to it, and I would show it to people, and they would be like, oh, well, maybe like it could be more of a handbook, and so that's what I kind of adapted it into, more of a handbook. So the book, 20 Guys You Date in Your 20s, the final draft and what it is. Oh, so I guess I had written it, and it was around the time I turned 30, I showed my latest draft, which was more of the handbook, to some friends, and they're like, well, you're about to turn 30. Shouldn't you publish this by the time you turn 30? And I was like, yeah, I should. So I started just doing it myself. I was going to self-publish. I used this like graphic editing free website, Canva. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I started just like doing the graphics and building it. And I was showing my hairdresser, and he was like, this is really good. Do you mind if I show my other client, David? And I'm like, sure. So he shows it to David, and David, who I didn't know, used to be like an agent at CAA, is currently a manager of his own company, manager-producer, going through a divorce. It kind of feels like what my audience is for this book is literally, and you don't have to be in your 20s.
Sure. It's like anyone that's experienced heartache
Or single, because I think what happens is when you go through a breakup, especially after a long-term relationship, no matter what age you're at, you feel like you're like learning how to do dating all over again. Mm-hmm. It's not like riding a bicycle.
No.
And so you kind of do need a handbook to like keep you updated about like what's going on. Like, I mean, when I got out of my most recent breakup, the last time I was single was 2017, and dating in 2019, there were new dating terms. Like there was like everything was like different. There were new dating apps. Like, so there always is an adjustment period, and my handbook tries to take these timeless themes in dating, these timeless obstacles that no matter what year it is, this is how you can get through them. Here's a story of my like failure or funny story, whatever. Here's some charts. Here's some quizzes. Here's some advice from the guys I dated. They get to read their story. I interviewed.
Oh, that's
my God.
so amazing.
I interviewed 19 exes, and they all gave me like quotes, and then I interviewed successful couples. So like the chapter, the guy who's your instant boyfriend, I interviewed a couple, actually our sorority sister, Jessie Prey, who went from her boyfriend and her dated for 5 months, and then they got married, and they're still together 5 years later and just had their first kid. So, but they approached it very differently than someone who's rushing into love. They really knew each other. They had a strong foundation that they built quickly, but the foundation was there, and they are still so happy together.
I'm so pumped that you were able to get quotes from your 19 of your exes.
Oh my God. I mean, it was hard, and I slid into a lot of DMs, and I slid into a lot of like LinkedIn DMs so I would seem professional. But it was a lot.
So I remember, I can't even remember that time we got dinner.
Drinks, I think, right?
But I remember you talking about the book then.
Yes.
And I don't even remember how many years ago. It could have been 5 years ago. It could have been 2 years ago. I don't remember.
I think I was still on because I started working at it.
Because you were still working on it,
I was at the Elite Daily Show. And like when the Elite Daily Show, second season of the Elite Daily Show, I was like, what is my next like step?
Yeah.
And my next step career-wise was like, well, you know what? I love the Elite Daily Show. I really wish I had my own show. I really wish I had my own platform. I've been already writing this book. And the book, obviously, I'm already developing it into a TV show because that's always been the goal, to have my own TV show. And here's the book, and it just goes hand in hand. So I started doing that, being like, this is my next chapter of my life. And then the Elite Daily Show ended, and I thought everything was lining up. And then I actually ended up losing my book agent, like my first book agent. We couldn't agree on an agreement, and she like wanted to take a higher percentage than she should, and my lawyer and my manager was like, this doesn't make sense. So she actually ended up ghosting us, which was like really funny. And so I'm like, this is such a dating book. And then, so yeah, I thought the project was dead, and I was moving to New York to be with my now ex-boyfriend. And as I was moving, like, I was almost like packing up my stuff. My manager, who I hadn't heard from in a while, called me and was like, hey, you know, I just met this really great producer who works with this book agent all the time. They're really interested in your book. Can you send me your proposal? And within like a week, I had a new book agent, a new proposal, and we were sending it out to publishing houses.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So when we met and you were talking about the book, and then your friend said you should publish this before your 30s, but then all of that transpired, do you think that there was a universal reason it hadn't been published yet? Because you did add to it, correct?
I did. I added to it, and you know, it's so funny. I think I was like talking to Gabby Dunn about this like years and years ago, who's also an author. And I was telling her about the book, and she was like, well, you know what? She's like, I always wanted to be an author, and I'm so happy that I wasn't an author with some of my earlier stuff that I wanted because it wasn't ready yet. And I think you do need time to get it into a good place and to make sure it's not like a rant. It's like not a diary. Like, it needs to feel relatable. So I think the final product I have, I feel like is something that's relatable and interesting, and not just like a burn book, because it's not a burn book.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the most interesting part about all of this is that you really had to put all hands on deck when your last relationship ended.
Yes.
And you had to move back in with your parents and work on the book.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
So just to give you a little idea, like I guess the timeline of writing a book, so how this all happened. So I found out in June that Chronicle was interested in the book, but they want it to be a little bit more of a handbook, which was fine. So it would be less of a memoir, more of a handbook, but it's still, now it's like 30-30-30, I guess. And so that was fine. And also it was funny because I always wanted this book to be at Urban Outfitters, and Chronicle does all the books at Urban Outfitters.
Oh
so
my God,
it was like
manifesting
a
at its
weird
finest.
manifesting thing.
I love it.
It does mean that I will not be on the cover of my book, which is fine, because that's like, it does make sense when you think about the layout of books that you see at an Urban Outfitters.
Yeah.
They all look a certain
But like
way.
there's going to be a killer author photo.
Yes, on the back. I already have it.
Absolutely. Yes. I think we've
It's on
seen
my
it. Yes.
Instagram.
Yes.
It's gonna look great. So that was like something I found out recently that I was like butthurt about at first. Then I was like, you have to trust your publisher. They know what's up.
Well, and there's a lot. We all see the back of, like, I'm reading How to Be a Badass Bitch or something like that, but her picture's on the back too. It's like everyone will know the face of the voice that's coming.
And there's
from.
other additions.
Exactly. There's going to be an autobiography, I'm sure.
Yeah,
so
all
it's
those
fine.
things. So that's fine. But so sorry. So the timeline of it was that I had gotten my book agent in April. I was moving to New York. I was in New York. I was back here for the Fringe Festival in June, and that's when I got a call from my book agent that Chronicle was interested. But then, like, these deals don't happen like overnight. Like, they're interested, they want it, then they give you an offer, and then you negotiate the offer, and then we have to try to fight for things like film and TV rights, because that was always like the whole point of this book was like, yes, it's a book, but we also want it to be a streaming show. So we're like fighting for this. So the actual deal wasn't signed until I think it was like September. So June from September. Then we finally had the deal done in September. And then I had like a month to turn in my outline, because I didn't want to do my outline until the deal, because like, what if the deal exploded? And then like, you know, I want to make sure. So I did my outline. I turned in my outline to my editor, who also went to Emerson, weirdly enough.
So weird.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's like, but like so strange. So I turned in my outline, and I'm living in New York, and my relationship. So the end of the book was supposed to be a happily ever after, I started dating my person when I was 29, and now we're together and we're so happy living in Brooklyn, because that's what I thought. But as I was living in Brooklyn and as I was with this person and he was less and less supportive, I started to think to myself, maybe this is not it. Maybe this is not my happily ever after. And our relationship started to crumble, funny enough, I got notes from my editor the day I moved out of our apartment in Brooklyn, which was like a couple of days after the Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
And the holidays are
The worst. So I'm moving out of this apartment. My parents left me in the city because I had an acting class to go to after. I'm going to all my like last favorite spots in the neighborhood, like this little like Italian coffee shop that I used to write my book and all my articles at. And then I go to my like nail salon to get my nails done. And I'm like feeling like crap, but I'm talking to my editor, and she's like, what's going on? I'm like, well, the ending of the book has changed. And she's like, it's all good. Like, it's for the best. And she sent me like this really lovely care package.
Oh.
But yeah, so I moved back with my parents and had from like Thanksgiving until January 21st to write this book, which is because people are always like, how long did it take you? And that's kind of like not a lot of time if you think about it.
No.
And not a lot of time for a book that had 3 moving parts. So the first was writing these 20 stories. The second was interviewing my exes, experts, and couples, and then finding people that would actually give me quotes on time. And then the third was like creating what these graphics would look like, having examples, what is it like, what's the copy, all that stuff. So so that was written, and then I sent that in on the 21st, moved back to LA on like February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, very on brand. Also, tickets are less expensive before Valentine's Day. And then was worked on a couple of notes, and now I'm in the stage which is called Galleys. So Galleys is like what your book looks like before it goes to print. And so you get them and they're like printed out and they're big, and you get to like just kind of, you write on them and you put your changes in. I had to like re-sketch some graphics that were not what I wanted, but now my notes the copy's locked, so my notes are mostly graphics that I'm being like, this is not how I saw this. Can this be like this?
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
Now. When does it come out? Do we know? Do we have a date?
I don't have the exact publishing date, but it's spring 2020.
And
But people were always like, why isn't it already? Because it sounds like it's done, and it is done. But I think that we always wanted it to come out in the spring to time it with graduation and also summer reading. So
yes.
What do your parents think? Because I know they are both very important to your life.
They're very important, and they're very overbearing. Living with them was a big challenge. It made me realize that our relationship works best when we're not on the same coast, as much as I love them, because it's just too much. And also, like, while I was writing this book, my parents were moving out of my childhood home. In addition to that, and so I was writing this on the kitchen table, and my parents would like be yelling at me that I wasn't like helping them like move out, and I'm like, I feel for you. I wish I could. I am writing a book. And it was just like, that was never, they just didn't get it.
I'm becoming a star. Can you just give this to me, please?
This is like my moment.
This is what you've wanted.
Yeah, my parents are like way overbearing, and they're very proud. But it's so funny. On my way here, I just got in like kind of a little argument with my dad, where I'm like, no, Dad, the book, I'm not going to be on the cover of the book. And he was just like, but this is so important. This is your career. You need to be on the cover of your book. I'm like, it's out of my control. And I just like don't think he understood, because what happened with the cover was I had actually inquired, is it possible to be on the cover of the book? Because it is my stories, it's my life.
Course.
And I have this concept, and they're like, it is, that's great, we just don't have a budget for that. So if you want to do your own photo shoot and send it to us, we'll consider, but again, no promises, we'll consider. And I'm like, well, I might as well just do it.
Sure.
So I put on my producer cap and produced the shoot, and had like
super cute
had these
shoot, by the
guys,
way.
like like different arms holding different things to personify the men, with me in the center. Oops, sorry. Me in the
so
center,
funny.
like with these Lolita glasses and a martini and like a glass of rosé and stuff. And my good friend Sean Binder shot it, and it was like such a fun day. And my other good friend Emily Harden did my wardrobe, and she's a style. Like, it was like so fun to like have like such a team together, like to do this cool thing. But they ended up not going with that. But I think the picture will be on the back of the book, hopefully. So
that's one thing I did want to ask you before I ask you the next question, but it sounds like you have a very good team around you.
I do, yeah.
Which I think for a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives, it takes them a little while to get to that point. So,
right.
So how did you get to that point of having, your manager and whatever, like, obviously a lot of work on your part.
Yeah.
And what is the biggest difference in now having a team?
Well, I think what the thing is too is that and one of the reasons of why I had to move back to LA, despite like really not liking New York, is that my network and my connections, which Jill, from like, we both know from Emerson, is like here.
Yeah.
Like everyone. So if you do want to put a photo shoot together, the person to call to do your makeup, to shoot it, to edit it, to put it all together. Friends that will do the free favors. Like in New York, if you know only like 10 people, you don't have that network.
Sure.
So I was really lucky to have that. And it's kind of a thing like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, because you always are doing favors for each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of more like, because that's more what the team has become. But it is, I'm such a self-starter, and I'm used to doing things on my own, but it's so nice to have, someone like having that team supporting you with like making sure you're happy with what you want to do.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about your writing, which we love, and it's hilarious.
Yes.
But you also host and you do stand-up.
I do, yeah. And that's kind of the thing I've always, and that's actually something else that it was a decision I had to make recently, that some were like, it was a very risky thing, and I hope it ends up working out because I've always like wanted to be like a Tina Fey, Mindy Kaling type. Chelsea Handler because of the hosting and the stand-up, less of an improv background. But yeah, I run or produce now 3 shows in LA that are all like storytelling fun shows that I love, and I go anytime there's a hosting opportunity, I'm always down for it, as well as acting. But I think acting for me is mostly things I write. Like I like playing myself.
Yeah, I see. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for stand-up comedians. It's like anytime we have a stand-up person come in, I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Like, that's so scary.
It's a lot. I mean, because a lot of it is just commanding the room, and sometimes I'll do sets where like I won't even really get much jokes out or my work out or what I'm writing on because it's like I'm spending half of the time like making sure the room is paying attention to me. But like then the challenge would be to find a way to do that and being funny, which actually I was hosting a show at this brewery that's like right around here, the Lincoln Beer Company, and with my friend Emily Krauser, and we had this show called Stupid Smart Kids. It's actually our last one at that venue, but we're hosting the show, and there was something with like the acoustics or the rudeness of people, that there were these people that were there and they were just talking so loudly and like not paying attention. And so we saw that there was like a date in the corner and they had no idea there was a comedy show going on. So we ended up just like taking our wireless mics at the very end and going up to the date and like interviewing the date, because it's like, if you guys are gonna like like take away from the show by being so loud and like not paying attention to like where you are, like we're gonna involve you in the show.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's fun. And have you done stand-up classes? Is that like kind of what
I took a stand-up class in New York, and I just think that was more of like a way to just get out there, because I think what really like how to get into stand-up is to just do it, and the more open mics you do and the more stuff you do. But I've also been like now getting more into storytelling, and my goal is to actually shoot like a half-hour special, which will be a combination of stand-up and storytelling. And I work a lot with the storytelling coach, David Crabb, who's amazing, who also, because the stories in my book, I perform live, a lot of them.
Okay.
So I did coaching with him while I was writing the book, going over the stories, because I needed another person to be like, this is relatable, this isn't relatable, this could be funnier. And I noticed that my editor, while amazing, was more looking at overall like the technicality of the book, and a little less about like how to like creative insight. And so I kind of needed definitely someone else to like give me feedback on that kind of stuff.
So to bring everything back full circle that we've talked about, you are a beautiful single woman in Los Angeles.
Thank you.
And you write about dating, and you talk about it, and you perform about it.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to find the right partner that's comfortable with that.
And my last partner was not, which was interesting.
So that's the challenge.
That's the challenge. I think it comes down to confidence, and I think a guy who can be confident about it and accept that the things that I'm talking about are in the past. And I think that's like, and someone who can maybe be a little collaborative, like help me out, like, you know, give me some support and like insight, because like I really enjoy that in a relationship. But yeah, it definitely takes someone with not a fragile male ego, and unfortunately there's a lot of fragile male egos, especially here in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. And when you're going on all of these dates, obviously you're not, maybe you tell them you're writing an article, or maybe you don't, and they find out afterwards, but do you tell them what you do and that your brand is dating?
Yeah, so that's why I think that the guys that were so like, oh my God, like shocked that this happened was so funny to me, because I was completely transparent about everything else.
Yeah.
I was transparent about the book, and I was actually going to tell the guys on the date about the article, but I was concerned because my first date, who was like a setup, was like, oh, I would be scared for your safety, because you never know, they're strangers, like you don't know how they're going to respond.
Oh, that's a super good point.
And when he said that, that actually made me think. I was like, I don't want to do this in person. And then I'm glad I didn't, because the guy who got me kicked off this dating app that I since got back on was like very aggressive in his texting to me after I told him, because he asked me on a second date, and I was like, told him about the thing, thinking he'd understand, he was a writer, but instead he was like aggressive and dismissive and rude. I'm like, oh, good thing I didn't bring this up in a dark bar. And after, like, on a date. That,
oh my gosh.
Good thing.
I'm really glad that your first date
told me that, because I would have.
Yeah, no, for sure. And in this world of being so open in social media, it doesn't seem like as big of a deal, but then, you know, you watch these Ted Bundy documentaries like I do, like all the time. You're like, oh, damn, I got to be careful.
But also, like, let's be completely honest. If you were to just Google your name, you know what you could figure out what you do.
Yeah, you can figure it out. So it's not really, it's not really that big of a surprise.
So let's just say they didn't make the extra effort
to
find out a little bit about you before the date. That's what I'll say.
They deserve to be called out.
They deserve to be called out.
100%.
Yes. 100%.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so looking ahead,
Yeah.
what is next for you?
I think what's next. So so a big decision I had to make was there was interest in developing, which we set out for, the book into a TV show. But I had never been through this process before, and I didn't know that if a producer wants to develop your TV show and you're at the level that I'm at, there's another writer that comes in. And so it's a writer and a producer that's developing your show, and you have little to no input in it whatsoever. So I had to make the decision where it was like, okay, we go this route, and if it sells, it could be a lot of money, but you'll be barely involved in the process. You'll have opportunities to learn, yada, yada. Or the other thing is you write the pilot yourself, you shoot a sizzle with you starring in it, and we cross our fingers and hope that people are interested in that. And that's the riskier option, and that's obviously what I chose. And so I'm working on my pilot right now.
Good for
Yeah.
you, girl. Good
Yeah.
for you for sticking with your guns and your gut and being like, no, this is my story.
This is my
I wanna
story.
do
Yeah.
it.
It is challenging, though, because it's hard to take something that you're so close to. Because I've written pilots before, and I could turn them around really quickly because I'm not like as invested in it. But I do think I'm going to get something pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm
So,
stoked for you.
thank
And I'm
you.
so happy that you came in and told us your
Yeah,
story and
of
chatted. And I
course.
cannot wait to read your book.
Yes, soon.
So
soon,
fun.
soon.
So fun. Well, where can the people go to find you again?
At It's Gabi Conti on Instagram. So that's ITSGABICONTI. And that's also on Twitter, the same. But I'm more active on Instagram. I'm the most active on Instagram out of all the social medias.
Perfect. You guys have to follow her. She's hilarious
Oh,
and
thank
obviously
you.
like very relatable too if you guys are single and dating, especially in the Los Angeles area. So thank you, Gabi.
Thanks
and
for
we'll see you
having
guys
me.
next week.
Yes, thank you.
Bye. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Boss Please Pod. And don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe on iTunes. Navigate the path to your best self with us, because bossing together is always better.